Hey guys, it's Jess. Welcome back to Glue La La. Today I have two projects for you using unconventional items from the Dollar Tree. To get started, I used a pack of these hair rollers. They're kind of foam and they have a wire in the center. And I'm also going to be using these sponges. I'm going to start by taking 4 of the foam rollers and hot gluing them together. Now, I had my hot glue gun on high, but I actually switched it to low because the heat from the glue started melting the foam. And then to reinforce it, I'm just going to wrap it with some painter's tape, but you could use duct tape or any kind of tape that you had on hand because it's going to get covered up later anyway. Here's a picture of reindeer I found on the Pottery Barn website, and that's the inspiration for this project. So after you get the 4 rollers glued together, you're going to take 2 more and cut them down, and that's going to help form the neck and head area of the reindeer. And you're going to do the same thing where you glue them and then use a little bit of tape to reinforce them. To round out the body of the reindeer, I'm going to take these sponges and I'm just pulling the scrubby part off of them. And I'm going to cut them down to size and glue them onto the pieces that we've created so far and then wrap them in tape to round them out a little bit. And then on the ends, you can cut smaller pieces and glue them on and then wrap those with tape and then give them a little bit more of a rounded shape. As I was constructing the reindeer, if I saw an area that I felt needed to be a little bit fuller and more round, I would just add a little bit more sponge and then reinforce it with tape to make a smooth curve to the body. To cover the reindeer's body, I'm going to use this microfiber cloth from the Dollar Tree. Now what's nice about this microfiber is that it's pretty fluffy, so it's pretty forgiving whenever you add pieces to the body. You don't have to worry too much about seeing seams because if you add a little bit of hot glue to the edges and tap it down, it'll really blend in together because of the texture of the cloth. But what I would recommend is keeping all of your seams towards the bottom of the reindeer. That way if they do show a little bit, you won't seem to notice. Now it's a little bit hard for me to explain how exactly I covered this, so you'll just kind of have to sit back and watch. But like I said, this cloth is very forgiving, so don't worry if you have little patchwork pieces that you have to add here and there. Once you have the reindeer completely covered, you're going to take a little scrap piece of the cloth and gather the material up around the butt, and you're going to tie it and bunch it up a little bit, and then cut off the excess, and then we'll be using something else later for the tail. For the legs on the reindeer, I'm going to use these mini dowel rods that I found at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cover all 4 of them with some jute twine. To attach the legs to the body, I'm just taking my craft knife and I'm cutting a little slit where I want each leg to be, and then I'm just using some hot glue to stick the leg in. Now to create the ears, I'm going to use another little scrap piece of cloth, and I'm going to cut out a slight teardrop shape that has a flat bottom, and then you'll just add a little bit of glue and pinch it in the center to give it that ear shape. And you want to do that for both ears. For the tail, I'm going to use one of these pine cones off of this pine cone garland, and I thought it was really cute, so I just picked the one that I thought would look the best with the reindeer. Now I'm going to use this faux fur muffler that I found at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to take the inside lining off of it, and I'm going to cut a strip of the fur and wrap it around the reindeer as a little scarf, and then I'll just embellish it with some jingle bells and some greenery. The last thing we need to do for our reindeer is to give it some antlers. So I found these gold glittery branches at the Dollar Tree, and I just pulled off 2 pieces that I thought would make really pretty antlers, and I poked a hole in the head and then I hot glued it in, and then I took a little bit more hot glue and I glued the ear to the antler because the cloth is kind of flimsy. So here's a look at our finished reindeer. I think it's so cute with its long legs. It kind of reminds me of Bambi. Now after I had it standing up for a few days, I realized that the legs needed reinforced a little bit more, so I had just taken a little bit of hot glue and put it around the top of the leg where it connected to the body, and it made it a little bit stiffer. For the next project, we're going to be making a snowman, and I'm going to take 2 of these balls that I found at the Dollar Tree. Now, these balls you can see here, they have foam inside, so you want to make sure that you're using something that is solid on the inside, not something that is blown up. And I cut the top off and hollowed it out a little bit, and then I did cut a little bit off of the bottom just to make it more stable. And I'm using some wires from an old floral pick to help connect the 2 balls together. So I'm just adding a little bit of hot glue there, and then for the top one I cut a little bit off the bottom and glued it right on, and then I ran a bead of hot glue right around the seam where the 2 balls connected just to make it more stable. Starting at the top of the snowman, I'm going to use some of this decorative nautical rope, and I'm just going to start winding it around the whole snowman from the top to the bottom. This took me almost 3 packs of rope. Now this rope is 9.5 feet, but if you go to the Dollar Tree, pay attention because the sizes of the rope change all the time. Like sometimes it's 9.5, sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 11. But for this project, I used about 3 packages of the 9.5 foot rope. Now this is where I should have probably stopped gluing the rope on because I think it would have made my snowman a little bit more stable, but I actually filled in that hole the whole way, and then I had to go back through and add more hot glue on one side just to keep it upright. So if you decide to try this yourself, just leave a little opening on the bottom. And then I always like to take my lighter and just burn off the frayed edges of the rope. To make a hat for the snowman, I took a piece of leftover cardstock I had from something else, and I just cut a strip about 1 inch wide, and I fitted it around the head to make the cuff on the hat. And then I took some of this plaid flannel material that I had on hand. I got this from Walmart, and I'm gonna measure the material around the ring and cut a piece off as long as I want the hat, and then I'm gonna glue the material to the inside of the cardboard ring. But you want to make sure that the material, the print, is facing out, but you're going to glue the material on the inside. Using a leftover piece of that microfiber cloth, I cut a strip as long as I needed to go around the cuff of the hat, and I folded it in thirds to keep the ends looking nice and finished. And I'm going to line up in the back here where the seam for the hat is, and I'm just going to wrap the cloth around the bottom of the hat, and then I'll take a little bit of hot glue and seal the seam of the plaid material shut. Next, I'm just going to use a small rubber band to gather up the top of the hat. Once I had that all gathered up, I took a bag from the Dollar Tree and I just crumpled it up and shoved it inside to give it a little bit more puffiness before I put it on. And then I did hot glue the hat kind of lopsided on the snowman just to give it a little bit more character. And then after I had the hat in place, I hot glued the end down to the side of the hat. I showed you a little jar of buttons there just to let you know we'll need 2 buttons later on. But I'm going to take one of these large jingle bells, and I just cut the top off so that it would have a little bit of an indent so it would go around the tip of the hat better. Now, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for the face of the snowman, but I decided to take another one of those pine cones that I had found that kind of looked like the shape of a carrot, and I glued that on for the nose. And I was going to add some eyes, but then I decided not to. So next I'm taking another long strip of that plaid material, and I'm going to fold it in thirds like I did with the cuff of the hat, and this will be the scarf. So once I had everything glued in place, I wrapped it around the snowman and glued it on, and I trimmed it down, and then I just cut little fringes into the end of it. And then the 2 buttons that I had you pick out, you're just going to put those right on the front of the snowman. Look at our final snowman. I gotta tell you, I wasn't sure how this project was going to turn out, especially the reindeer. Using those unconventional materials was a real challenge, and I'm really happy with the results. Let me know in the comments which of the 2 projects was your favorite. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe and share with your friends, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye!